Well, here we are on Main Street. Welcome back. Across America, even Ohio, that's where Flo is from. Flo Selfman. Nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Talk about you, how you got here, because everybody's trip to California to a new place to live is a fascinating one. And also the fact that we were so proud to be able to start broadcasting the Dinah Shore show. In this case, Dinah's place, you worked with Dinah Shore on. Wow.
I was going to be a teacher, and so I was with LA City Schools as a substitute, and I was not getting called in very often, so I was working as an office temp for a big company called Kelly Girl, and I was handpicked for a 2-week job at the home of a star, Dinah Shore, who most people knew of from her TV show in the 50s. It was a Chevy show, and she was known for her beautiful personality and her southern warmth and her beautiful gowns and singing the Chevy jingle. So she was coming back to TV after many years and needed someone to do her fan mail. So the person enlisted to be in charge was her sister Bessie, her older sister, and Bessie didn't type. She needed somebody who could type. And they picked me because I had a college degree and I could type 65 words a minute. So I went to Dinah Shore's house for a 2-week job. And after a few days, I had a feeling that I was going to be asked to stay on. And I thought, wow, this is something I never dreamed about in Mansfield, Ohio. And so I thought, well, when they ask me, I'm certainly going to say yes. And I did.
They asked you. They did.
asked me.
Good for you.
They asked me. Well, it was all worked out. It was all worked out with the money, little as it was, and then I got to meet Dinah, and I met her, in her home where we were working, but I'll never forget it. She said, "I get first crack at any man playing tennis on my court."
So here you are, from Ohio to Los Angeles, sitting with Dinah Shore, who's perhaps, at that time, for sure, one of the top personalities of all time, and probably today, one of the great personalities of all time. I mean, she was sensational. Came from Kentucky,
Tennessee. Winchester,
that's right,
Tennessee.
Tennessee.
A Russian Jewish family.
Yeah. And I think the family didn't change its name. I think it was Shore.
It was. Her name was Frances Rose Shore. And if memory serves, she was born in 1917. And a lot of people started writing in when she came back on the air in 1970 saying, it's so nice to see you back on the air. I've always loved you. We were born in the same year, and they quoted the year. So that's kind of how I knew. She was just lovely. She was beautiful to look at, and she was very warm and gracious, just as you would expect. I think she was a lot smarter than she let on, because she really wanted the guests on her show to shine. And for her, she had to learn how to be an interviewer, because she was used to being on the other side of the desk. She was used to being interviewed, but not actually doing the interviewing. So sometimes she knew more about what they were talking about than they knew, but she didn't act like it, because she really wanted them to have the spotlight and she wanted them to shine.
A great host of a variety show, but also she had a program where she interviewed people.
Well, that's the show that I worked on. That was
at home with Dinah.
In Dinah's place. That
Dinah's
was on
place.
NBC, a morning show from 9 to 9:30 in the a.m., 5 days a week. So we taped like 2 days a week, and we would do a week's worth of shows in 2 days, but we taped several weeks ahead of the schedule. And so she not only interviewed people. This show was designed to be the first of what was called a magazine show. So it contained everything that you would see in a women's magazine, plus Dinah's song. She always considered herself a singer first, so she closed every show with a song. And I mean, she did things like, she spent a week in Tennessee, her home, interviewing country stars and having a whole show of country music. And this, around the country, people were not really aware of country music at all. In fact, can I tell you something really funny?
Tell me something funny.
I was in the green room one day, and there was a woman, a short woman with platinum blonde hair, really bosomy, and she's wearing a blue and white gingham pinafore overalls with ruffles down the front. And I thought, why would a woman who's so bosomy wear ruffles down the front? And I realized it's Dolly Parton. I found out afterwards it was Dolly Parton.
There's the reason, right?
Yes, because
That's
the country stars
her
don't really
insignia.
dress country now, but then they did.
I'm curious about her nature. You know, all of us. She looked so elegant, and she's so talented. But she was born with polio. I don't know most people realize.
She did have a bout of polio, and I believe that she got into dancing. Her family got her into dancing at that time to help her
Sure.
correct. So she did recover from that. And, you know, was always very athletic. Tennis was her game. You know, people think it was golf, but tennis was her game.
Yeah.
The golf came afterwards. That came because through the sponsor. They wanted to do a golf tournament, and they wanted her to host it. And she, you know, she thought they were talking about tennis when they asked her to do a tournament in her name.
Looking at her demeanor as she hosted her programs, different type of programs at that, seems like it's the kind of a person that could never get upset. Did she ever get upset?
Well, I never saw her get upset.
Really?
She was human. She may have gotten upset.
But not noticeably. You know, kind of a sweet person.
No, but you know, also, you know, it's nice that people have intermediaries, so they don't necessarily have to get upset.
Flo, thank you for being with us.
My pleasure.
If Dinah Shore were both of such fans of hers,
Yes.
if you just come here and stand here and look at you, what would you like to tell her? What would be your message to her so many years later?
You're just a beautiful, loving woman, and it was just wonderful being able to work with you for 4 years.
Thank you for being here, and we're so proud to be the station chosen to broadcast 55 one-hour episodes of Dinah Shore.
Wonderful.
Thank you again, Flo, for
My
coming to our
pleasure.
studio.
Thank you.
And, you know, just a hint, probably the best time to go to Ohio would be May.
May is the best time to go anywhere.
Now you tell me.